Thanks for being here today, Nam.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm gonna have a good time.
Yes, you are.
Yay.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Karen. Hi, Glenn.
Hey, guys.
Hi, John. Hi, Cece, Judith.
Awesome. And Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Laura.
Hi. Oh, I'm so glad Laura can join us this week. Yay.
Just real quick, I can only stay on for like 15 minutes to a half hour because I have another meeting at 5:30. So.
Okay.
Sounds good, Jeff.
Nam, Jeff's coming to us from Massachusetts today.
Oh, okay. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
Well, I'm gonna go.
Not our usual time.
I know.
I'm gonna go ahead and get started so we can stay on time and just add people in as they come in. A couple Zoom rules for those of you who are new or who are returning or haven't been here in a while. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. We recommend speaker view for presentation. Video sharing is optional, though we love to see all your smiling faces. And please type all questions and comments into the chat. We will have a Q&A at the end with our guest speaker. So you can feel free to unmute yourself and raise your hand or type your questions in the chat, and I'll read them as well. I'll help moderate the chat bar at the end too. So please feel free to comment as much as you'd like. We love to hear from you. A quick update from Autism Tree. We have now reached over 596,000 people through our social media channels. This is all of our platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so on, YouTube. Thank you to everyone who's been following us throughout this journey since last March. This is when we started tracking our numbers when the school shut down and California went into the shutdown. So we have now posted over 1,000 times as well, which our posts have been shared, which is incredible. So please feel free to keep sharing with your friends and family. We love to reach more people all over, not only the country, but the world too. We have now posted 398 impact videos on our YouTube channel. Subscribe today if you haven't. It takes 1 minute, super easy. 346 of those videos have been posted since March 12th, so a huge majority. Thanks to everyone who has submitted a video. We're still accepting videos. If you want to create a video for our kids and families about what you do at home to stay healthy and productive, and keeping each other connected and inspired during this time. We also have a Reading with Autism Tree playlist series where we posted over 170 videos and reached over 50,000 people just through that. Our volunteers read children's books to our kids. We also have provided 265 virtual events to date to help our kids get that social communication. We have 22 events coming up between now and the end of next month. And we're constantly adding new events all the time. We will have in-person opportunities coming up in July and August and beyond. So stay tuned for all of that fun stuff. We are now offering 19 of our 20 programs, 18 in virtual, 1 in person. And like I mentioned, we'll hope to do more as well in the future. So without further ado, I'll pass it off to Dana Hoff, our co-founder and volunteer executive director, who will be introducing our guest speaker today.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm so happy to introduce everyone to NAM today, and I know we're at a different time than usual. Thank you, Jeff, for letting me know that you can't stay on the whole time, so I'll try to be a little bit quicker than usual and just say that I'm really looking forward to sharing this Lunch and Learn with you and having you get to know NAM. NAM, how we normally kick off our Lunch and Learn is by asking a question, so you can answer it or not, and we have everyone type them in and participate, and then we send out it in the follow-up email. We also have people sending in photos. This is a beautiful one taken March 30th of this year in Mexico, stunning, by Natalia. The question is, what do you do to create calm in your body, mind, and life? And I'm really interested what you're going to have to say on this, Nam. I know I find you to be one of the calmest people I've ever met in my life, and what draws me to taking classes from you. So would you like to answer that question?
Sure. Should I answer that in the chat or just answer it here?
Yeah, no, you can answer it. We're just kind of kicking things off.
Okay. Well, hi everybody. Well, my answer to that question is well, I'm a yoga and movement teacher, so of course, how I calm down, how I find peace is through movement and yoga, and not just traditional yoga, but any kind of movement. So anything that gets my heart rate going, anything that gets me to breathe and pay attention to my breath. Um, I love to ride my motorcycle, my bicycle, pretty much anything that's on two wheels. I love to do, and anytime that I teach yoga, that helps me to calm down and center too. So this entire practice is not just about me doing yoga for myself, but teaching yoga and helping other people find that calm and stillness as well. As a matter of fact, whenever I feel anxious or I feel keyed up, um, anytime that I get to teach a class that day, when I feel that way, I immediately feel 100% better after the class. And I can see and feel that difference from when I first step on my mat and when I'm done teaching. It just helps me to calm down so much. That's my answer.
I
Yoga and
love
movement.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now we always show a video, and this video really, really touched me since I met you. I really enjoy this video. It's about NAM, and I think it's maybe 2 minutes. So we're gonna bring that up.
It is 3 minutes.
Okay.
My first time on that, I hated it. It was awful. And mostly it was because I was awful at it. It was terrible. I couldn't even touch my toes. I have a shoulder injury, and I actually had a shoulder surgery on my left shoulder. So I really did enjoy it. But my third class, my teacher came up to me, and she obviously thought I was struggling. She said, "Don't worry about it. Think about where you're going to be a month from now, where you're going to be a year from now. This is lifelong practice." That just like turned a switch in my brain, and I started really enjoying the practice as their journey and not just something that I needed to be good at. So way back when, the studio that was practicing had a 30 and 30 count. We did 30 classes in 30 days, and I'm doing 81 classes in. And after that, the yoga studio owner told me, "Dude, why don't you just sign up for teacher training?" Well, I guess so. I mean, that was my next goal. And I just kind of just sign up on them, and through the process of teacher training and through just practicing, I realized how much I enjoy teaching, and here I am now. I was born in Vietnam. We escaped from Vietnam. My mother and I were refugees. Actually, we tried to escape 3 times. We got caught by the place, and I was in jail at the age of 3. So anybody out there thinks they're hard, I was a jailbird. I was an ex-con at the age of 3. All right. My style is very functional, basic movements, and I teach more on the internal work of the co-contractions and the internal feelings of what the pose is feeling like in the body. You can expect really intentional, simple classes. Simple doesn't mean easy. Simple just means going back to the basics and working some really fundamental movements and skills. Through the practice of yoga, I find that I'm a lot more even keeled in my daily demeanor. But mostly, I really appreciate the really fundamental step-by-step process of learning something or of acquiring a skill and really appreciating the small, minute details of everything versus focusing on the overall picture so much and fixating on that. The yoga juggling. The yoga juggling is a great teaching tool to learn how to do yoga and to learn how to juggle. It's all about skills acquisition and focusing on the basics. When you learn how to juggle, it's not about the catching, it's about throwing and learning how to throw consistently every single time. And just like in yoga, it's not about learning how to do the fullest expression of the pose. It's about learning how to do the very simple, basic things with maybe just your hands. And eventually adding on one more ball, learning to do the same thing with 2 balls, throwing the ball through. And the same thing with yoga, learning to do one more thing, and not worry so much about the full pose. Eventually, you'll add 3, you'll add 4, you'll add 5. You'll start to juggle all of these skills all at the same time. But the point is that you're still doing each individual skill consistently, smoothly, and with awareness of attention from the inside out. If you're new to yoga, know that the practice of yoga is a lifelong practice. You're not going to be good at it the very first thing. You may be good at some things and you may be awful at things, but the overall practice takes a long time. I absolutely think I'll be practicing yoga with you till the last day, till my dying day. I mean, in some form or another, whether it's asana or meditation or breathing or any of the other 8 limbs, it doesn't matter if it's yoga or CrossFit or football or baseball. It's all about the human condition and the human experience, and yoga is exactly that. It teaches us about the human experience and the human condition. Practice yoga is consistent, dedicated practice, and dedicated study over a long period of time. As long as you do it with intention and awareness, you'll get there. You might not get there to the extent that you expect it to be, but you're going to get there and you're going to find the old saying, life's a journey, not a destination. Learning about yourselves and knowing about yourselves, and less about the actual practice and less about the coding, more about the internal practice of who you are as a human being.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone was having trouble hearing it, but we'll also send it out in the follow-up. And now we always pick a quote for each speaker in honor of each speaker. Rebecca, I'm not up on the screen. Oh, you are on my computer.
Okay, hold on. Let me put you on speaker. Spotlight. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, we always pick a quote every week in honor of the speaker, Nam, and I really like this one for you. Your calm mind is the ultimate weapon against your challenges. And I don't know if everyone heard that video clearly, but when I watched the video of Nam after I met him and took his class, I just thought it really captured, what an incredible life that you've led. And I think it's really why you're one of the calmest people I've ever met in my life and why I'm drawn to going to your yoga class. So, it's just really kind of divine intervention to meet you and have Rebecca come take a class with you and just experience that calm that you bring. So it's hard to believe this. We had a Zoom meeting back in April. It feels like longer than that right now. And then just recently this month, we went and took Nam's class together and then really talked about Nam coming on the Lunch and Learn, and here he is. So it's really special. I could go on and on about his story, but since Jeff is on a short time frame, I'm going to just leave the floor up to you early today, Nam, so that you can talk directly to everybody and share whatever you want. And just wanting you to know how grateful we are to have you here today. Thank you so much for making time.
Oh, thanks, Dana. Thanks, Rebecca. I really appreciate y'all having me here. And full disclosure, I'm very self-conscious of myself, especially on film and recorded my videos. So I've never seen that video before. I know that it exists. I know that it's there, but I've actually never sat through the whole thing, which is kind of interesting. And what went through for me when I watched that video, even though it was choppy, was just a memory of the time I spent with all those people who were helping me make that video and all the fun that we had. And this was the first time I actually watched something that was on that I didn't feel like I was trying to, I didn't feel like I had to cringe or feel embarrassed or feel self-conscious about it. So thank you for that. That was the first time I got to watch that. But hi everybody else. Again, my name is Nam. I'm not autistic. I'm neurotypical, but my wife is autistic. We found out that she was autistic pretty late. She was diagnosed pretty late in life. As a matter of fact, we started our relationship and we were dating and even engaged before we even knew that she was autistic. And before that, we found out that she was autistic. All of our little conflicts, our little fights were pretty confusing for the both of us. We just really didn't know what to do with it. And once we found out that she was autistic, everything kind of just fell into place. Everything made sense. And we were able to actually navigate our relationship a lot more intentionally and a lot more intellectually too, in the sense that some of the ways that she responded to just normal social cues that I would take for granted, I would now understand and have more perspective. One of the stories I like to tell is we decided to take my mom to the zoo, and we had a family day. And while I was looking for parking, my wife Julia, she was sitting behind me, and I reached for my credit card, and I kind of sneakily handed it to my wife, and I said, "Okay, well, honey, why don't you go and get our tickets?" Well, for me, a normal social cue when someone gives me a credit card or when I give someone my credit card, the cue is use my credit card to buy the tickets without having to say, use my credit card, right? But I just handed it to her. I said, okay, well, go buy tickets. So she grabbed the credit card, and her thoughts were just, oh, he's just handing me a credit card to hold on to. So when she went to the ticket office, she used my mother's credit card to buy the tickets. And we got into a pretty heated argument over that, because I assumed that she understood these social cues that I took for granted, and she had never learned those social cues. So once we learned that she was autistic, once we understood that she processed things differently, our relationship has grown by leaps and bounds, and I feel like we understand each other so much better. My wife has been really instrumental in teaching me how to be a good yoga teacher. Even though she does not teach yoga or even do yoga very much, she's really taught me a lot about how to connect with other students and how to just relate and teach to a wide variety of students. And the way that I teach my yoga classes is definitely informed by how she receives the information, right? So she used to take my classes all the time. And as a matter of fact, we would joke all around, because whenever she took my classes, she was the one person that I would do everything I could to make everybody else comfortable and give everybody else a comfortable and good time. None of those tricks actually worked on her. So I had to find new ways of actually being inclusive for her too. So I tell everybody that Julia, my wife, even though she doesn't teach yoga, she's one of my greatest teachers of all time in terms of yoga, right? If you are not in the yoga sphere, or you're not familiar with the yoga sphere, historically there's been a lot of push to just be as flexible and as strong and as able-bodied as possible to do yoga. And oftentimes, there's not this sense of inclusion, right? And so recently, within the last several years or so, there's been a huge movement towards inclusion and making yoga about everybody. And what I mean when I say everybody, I really mean everybody, but also every body and every body part type, right? So every physical ability. So it's the conversation is about around ableism. And in the recent several, 2 or 3 years or so, I've really been pushing to make this also about not just everybody in terms of ableism and physical abilities, but also making yoga accessible for those with sensory processing disorders and those who are neurodivergent, because it's not just about physically being able to do yoga, but also being able to physically within the space, so that you feel included and invited without being too overwhelmed with external stimuluses, right? So how I teach is very similar to that. One of my favorite comedians, her name is Hannah Gatsby. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's actually an autistic comedian, right? And so I'm gonna say Migdalia. Is that how you pronounce your name, Migdalia? Okay, so you nodded your head yes. One of her recent specials is called Douglas, and the way that she structured her special was ingenious. So because she's autistic, she decided to really tailor her show to other autistic people. And the way that she did was, she spent the first half of the show preparing her audience about the show. So she would tell the audience exactly what was going to happen in the show. So the first half of the show wasn't even the show. It was just, okay, well, see, like the first 20 minutes, I'm going to talk about myself. I'm going to give you some background about me. I'm going to tell you that I'm autistic. And then the next part of the show, I'm going to give you some small little tidbits and small little like soft jokes. And then in the middle of the show, I'm going to hit you hard with some harder jokes. And some of you may feel triggered and bothered by it, but want to get through it. And then she keeps on going through the whole introduction, telling you about what the show is, so that you're prepared to actually sit through the show. And then after that, the halfway point, then she's like, okay, the show starts now. And then she goes into the whole show and into her spiel, and it follows exactly what she was telling everybody, because it set up that expectation. So I'm going to try to do that, a little bit of that, right? So today, after I'm done introducing myself to you and talking a little bit more about my wife and I, we're going to go through a very short sensory processing meditation where we start to kind of explore how to connect to our senses and choose whether we engage with them or not. So they have more of the power to choose what's going to happen with the information that we perceive. After that, I'll have a short little question and answer period where you can either share your experiences or ask questions about what happened. Then we'll move on to another short sensory meditation mindfulness where we just focus on the sense of touch and exploring that in our hands. Another question and answer period after that. And then finally, we'll do one last short little sensory perception. It's called Yoga Nidra, where you get to either sit up or lie down and just pay attention to how your body feels and go over individual body parts so that you can really pay attention and tune into yourselves and how you're feeling today so that you meet yourselves where you are at any given moment. After that, maybe a short question answer and then we're done. Sounds good? All right, cool. So a little bit more about myself. I've been teaching for 9 years now. I'm in San Diego. I teach both movement, meditation, and yoga. So it's not just in the realm of a yoga class, but I teach a lot of mobility and movement. I teach a lot of strengthening classes as well. And my background was in martial arts. As a matter of fact, my wife's background is in martial arts as well. And she actually connects more with a martial arts class than she does with a yoga class. Because if you've gone to a public yoga class, generally speaking, there's not a lot of structure to a public yoga class. You'll step into a yoga class and the teacher will most likely be teaching something random every single class, right? You don't get the structure unless you go to certain studios. And so when my wife would show up to these random yoga classes, it was less about sensory perception and sensory processing that she had an issue with. It was more, she never knew what to expect from the moment she walked into the studio to the moment she walked out. Every single time it was different. You know, you either faced a different way, the teacher was in a different part of the class, the music was different, the style of the class was different. And even if the description of the class was consistent throughout the whole series, if there was a different teacher, those individual teachers would teach classes differently. So there was never anything that she could expect out of the class. So it was very disconcerting to her. It kind of disturbed her a little bit, or at least it disturbed her calm a little bit. But in a martial arts class, for the most part, everything is very structured. You know exactly the rituals. It's very ritualistic, right? When you walk into the studio, there's always a bow. When you step on the mat, there's a bow. And as you go through the class, there's always structured rituals that was expected of you. And because she knew what to expect, that made her feel a lot more comfortable showing up to martial arts classes. They were physically more challenging, but in terms of her sensory processing disorder and her difficulty with understanding what was expected of her, knowing exactly what the structure was really helped her. Right? And so a lot of times for my beginning yoga classes, I try to instill as much structure as I can. Similar to this meeting here, you all start with the same thing. You start with that quote and you go on. And so it's not just jumping back and forth. It's the same thing here. Setting up expectations is important. Does that make sense? Right. So let's go ahead and go into our first mindfulness and meditation practice. I invite you to be as comfortable as you want to. You can set your laptop or phone down. You can lie down. You can sit up. Whatever is comfortable for you, so that you can be still and not be in a space where you feel crunched in or boxed in. You're also welcome to close your eyes if you'd like. Opening your eyes and keeping them open if that's more comfortable is just fine. But this first meditation is really about the 5 senses that we perceive the world through. Right? We are told that we have 5 senses: the sense of sights, hearing, tastes, touch, and smell. We actually have about 20 more different types of senses, but we're just going to focus on these 5, right? Again, I encourage you to close your eyes and take a moment to allow your senses to tell you everything about the space around you. At any point, if this feels overwhelming, if this feels that it is too much information for you to process, then feel free to do what you need to let that go. But as you remain here where you are, take notice of all the sounds around you. From within the space and the room that you're in, but also notice any noises from outside the space, outside in the streets, in the room next to you. Listen to the sounds of any creaking of your chair or the furniture that you're in. Observe the sensations on your skin. The clothes that are touching you, the fabric. And take notice of the gentle brush of air across your skin as well. And the softness or the hardness of the furniture that you're sitting in. And take notice of any other senses that you perceive. Your sense of taste and sights. Your sense of smell. Is there a scent and an aroma in the room that you're in? When it comes to your senses, there are 2 impossibilities that we want to consider today. The first impossibility is that it is impossible for you to ask and expect the world to stop and to pause when you need to find time for stillness and quiet and calm, when you need to find time to meditate or practice your mindfulness. The second impossibility is that it is impossible and unreasonable for you to expect your senses to stop working when you need to find stillness and calm and quiet as well. The world will still swirl around you in chaos, and there's always going to be distractions around you. Your senses will always pick up on that chaos. And for a lot of autistic people, your senses pick up that stimulus even more than us neurotypical people. Your senses are heightened. Even with your eyes closed, you still see dots of color and light filtering through your eyelids. But imagine, if you will, perhaps a bubble or some type of loose barrier between you and all of the senses that you perceive. So that you're just sitting or lying within this roomy bubble. All the chaos, all the distractions are swirling around you and outside of that bubble. And now consider 2 possibilities. The first possibility is that you have the power and the choice to reach out and interact and engage with any of those senses that you perceive. So it is possible for you to choose to reach through your bubble and engage with the sounds that you hear around you and chase after them. You have the power to choose to reach up and scratch that itch if you feel the need. And at the same time, the second possibility is that you have the power and the choice to choose not to reach out, to not engage with anything that you perceive. You have the power to choose to remain within this bubble, almost as if you were the witness to your own experience, observing all of the things around you without engaging or reacting. So that sound that you hear, there's no need and no requirement to reach out and interact with it and to chase after where it came from, to identify it, or even chase where it's going. That sensation on your skin, there's no need or requirement to react and reach up and scratch it or adjust it. And again, you have the power to choose to reach out and interact and react. But at the same time, you also have the power to choose not to. So intrinsically, within that power to choose not to, you have the power to choose to respond versus react. And there's a difference. Reacting to the stimulus and the chaos around you is just a reflex. Something that you may not necessarily be able to control fully. But the act of responding to the stimulus and the chaos around you is literally an active choice to do so. So there's control there. And so that itch on your skin, choose when to respond to it and when to reach up and scratch it. That light filtering through your eyelids, choose what you want to focus on and perceive. And all that chaos around you, choose whether you want to reach out and engage and how you'll reach out and engage versus just letting yourselves react. Remember that they have no power to reach through the bubble and to interact with you. You have that power to reach out to interact with them. It's a one-way street. So when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel that the senses and the distractions around you are so intense that you start to draw in on yourself and you start to freeze up, perhaps you remind yourself that you always have the power to choose what to react to and what to respond to. Take a big inhale through your nose. And a slow, soft, steady, open mouth exhale to release. If your eyes are closed, feel free to keep them closed or start to open them. Flutter your eyelids open. And give yourselves a moment to actively take in the space around you. Right? Maybe look around the room, listen to the sounds, feel the furniture around you, feel the air around you, move your body around. And take notice of what your experience was. All right, good job. So that was the first practice of meditation mindfulness. Well, thanks, Glenn. Yeah, I hope you can take my class soon too. Hopefully I can come back and do more of these lunch and learns too, so you can do it here as well. So any questions, any comments and observations about what you experienced while you were here in this first set of meditation practices?
Anyone can unmute themselves if they want to. Thanks for your question, Susan.
Okay. So what is a mobility specialist and how do you become one? Well, a mobility specialist is just a term for someone who teaches movement, right? So I am a mobility specialist in the realm of FRC, which stands for functional range conditioning, and it's just a movement modality that a lot of sports medicine doctors use and athletic trainers use to work with their athletes.
How do you become one now?
There's several trainings and certifications out there. So FRC has an online certification right now. It used to be in person only, but because of COVID, everybody's going online. So if you were interested in becoming one, they have an online certification where you would do group online classes with everybody and learn the system. It's usually about a weekend's worth of training. Yeah. Let's see what's next here.
We have a lot of comments. I'll go through them now. No worries.
Oh, thank you.
First, yeah. I want to share a little bit about what I experienced. It was like a trance. But I haven't done meditation in a while, and Nam, your voice is very calming. So it was really wonderful. I actually tuned into the wind chimes that were right outside of my window, which I did not notice were there. And then, of course, Chanterrwyn, she said she experienced a lot of stress because there is a loud dryer behind me.
Yeah.
Laura, thank you for your comment too. She said, that was the first time in a while someone has helped me be still in my own space. And
oh, wow. Thank you, Laura. Well, first I want to address Catriel. Yeah, sometimes this can be very stressful because I am forcing you to pay attention. So as we move along, if you still feel that that dryer behind you is too overwhelming and too noisy and causes stress, if you're able to remove yourself from the space that you're in and go into another room or go into another space with that the dryer is not there, then that's even better, right? So sometimes we can't just sometimes it is helpful to sit and expose ourselves to that stimulus. But if that stimulus becomes too much and you become stressed, then your nervous system starts to kick in and you become way too tight and way too stressed to even process what we're doing, right? So these exercises are not so much a way to force you to confront the stresses and to confront the stimulus and the chaos. This is more a way for you to determine, what your boundaries are in relation to that stimulus. So if that stimulus is too much, then by all means, if you can, remove yourself from it. So if you're on a laptop and you can move yourself into another room, if you're on a phone, if you're on a desktop, if you have maybe headphones. Oh, by the way, we found out that my wife is very sensitive when it comes to auditory stimulus. So whenever we go out shopping, she hates shopping. She absolutely hates. She does not like to go to the mall or the grocery store because she always had a difficult time. But what we found was that if we actually got her earphones, just earbuds, just like they're called ear defenders. They're just, like what you see airline baggage handlers use. Right? They're just, and she can use those, and now she actually enjoys shopping because that extra stimulus is taken away. So if you have earphones, that might help here, right? So it helps to drown out the dryer. Yeah. And Laura, I'm so happy that I was able to help you calm down. That's awesome.
Laura says she has cancel out headphones. And she has 2 pairs of those. Awesome, Laura. Laura's daughter, Laura's a mom, and her daughter is on the spectrum. And she also said it started raining lightly, just as you said, to be in touch with sounds from outside. That's really calming. I love it. Cece also agreed. She said it felt like a trance to me, and I feel more calm after the meditation. And Dolly said, I am learning to observe and not absorb. Your meditation helps with this tremendously.
Oh, awesome.
Great comment, Dolly.
I like your comment about corporate America, because it's exactly what my wife went through. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Misophonia. Not,
And especially like the trend for like open plan offices where everybody shares one big space, right? And they think that that's productive. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, give me an office space. I'm fine. Like give me 4 walls and a door. Let me shut everything out once in a while. Yeah. Absolutely.
she mentioned misophonia. Do you know what that is, Nam?
Yeah, so it's isn't it like extra sensitive to sound and auditory stimulus, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it's such like a strong,
It's
not aversion, but go ahead.
It's your senses. I didn't know I had this. I wasn't diagnosed till I was in my early 50s, so I didn't know what my deal was. But the smells of people bringing in their onion, slurping their yogurt, cutting their fingernail, everything was like so deafening. And it almost drove me insane. I thought I was dying or losing my mind or both. And it was just that my ADHD undiagnosed coupled with misophonia in people, it was killing me. We need to listen. My husband wouldn't listen to me. I said, I'm going crazy. We need the money. We need the money. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't deal with this. This is really hard. So I know we need to listen. I mean, I have a son on the spectrum. I listen. You need to listen to they're not talking perhaps, but they're always saying something with their arms, their eyes. You just got to listen. That's my thing.
There's this big superhero and movie trope where if someone all of a sudden develops their superhero power, and the moment they develop their superhero power, all their senses become heightened, and then they get bombarded with all this information, and then they literally go crazy, and they can't handle it, because it's like this new superpower where they can sense everything so much more than everybody else, and they haven't learned how to control that yet. And that's kind of how that works. Like you're sensing so many things around you that it becomes way too overwhelming, because you're experiencing it on such a higher level than anybody else is. Yeah, and corporate America is just a trap for that. Yeah. All right. Let's go to the next one. You ready for the next one? So again, if you need to get yourselves in a more comfortable and more conducive space for this, feel free. I encourage you to lie down for this one, but again, if you want to sit up, that's fine. Palms facing up, wherever you are. Find a space where you can rest your arms and your palms are facing up. So if you're at your desk, then just sit closer to your desk so your palms and your forearms can rest on the surface, palms face up. And again, you feel free to close your eyes. So this one is less about observing the senses around you and more about creating a story about the senses that you perceive. So for me, closing my eyes helps me to visualize the sense of touch more. It's like they say, if you lose one sense, then the other 4 senses become a little more heightened. And with your eyes closed or not, observe the center of your palms. I invite you to tell yourselves a little story about what's happening in the center of your palms, what you're feeling there. Again, not just the brush of air on your skin, but now the temperature that you feel. Right? Your sense of temperature is yet another sense that is related to touch, but it is its own sense, right? Separate from touch. Allow your fingers to softly curl and relax. So you're not making a fist, nor are you trying to open your fingers wide. But here, let's create a story around our palms. Imagine if you had two small balloons, one in each palm. Very small and minute, the size of a pinpoint. While in the last exercise, you imagine yourselves sitting within that bubble and in that balloon. In this exercise, I'd like you to imagine that that bubble and that balloon was sitting just in your palm. You could imagine a rubber balloon. You could imagine a soap bubble, whatever that is. And how does that tiny little pinpoint of a balloon feel in the center of your palm? Can you notice the minute increase of weight? And maybe observe the texture of the balloon itself. And as you continue to observe and witness this balloon, notice that it's starting to slowly grow bigger and bigger. Very slowly at first, almost imperceptibly slow. You can imagine that it's a rubber balloon filling up with water. What's the temperature of that water? If it's a soap bubble, imagine that it's filling with more and more air, but the walls of the balloon never pop. Whatever round globe-like object you would like to imagine your palms, just tell a story around how and what you feel as it grows in your palm. As it continues to grow larger and larger, feel your balloons start to fill out the center of your palm a little bit more. Not quite reaching your fingers just yet, but now the weight of those balloons anchor the back of your hands to the surface that they're resting on a little bit more. Your hands feel heavier, more grounded. Every inch of your palms begin to fill up with the size of the balloon. Eventually, your balloons grow just large enough so that the weight of your fingers can rest against the walls. The balloon does not grow so large that it forces your fingers to spread and open, but the balloon is just large enough so that you can rest the weights of your fingers against the walls of that balloon. And take notice of the texture, the smoothness or roughness of the surface of your balloon. And take notice of the feel of the balloon itself. Is it stiff and hard, or is it soft and spongy? Whatever in between. And take note of the temperature that you feel. Is it cold? Is it warm? Is it hot? Your hands and palms are supported by the surface that you're resting on. while your fingers are supported by the balloon itself. So there's no need for any efforts to be here. And if it serves you, perhaps you imagine that those balloons were starting to draw excess energy and tension, excess stress out of your fingers, out of your palms and forearms and wrists. And eventually out of your whole body. Maybe imagine myriad little highways of stress leading to those balloons. And those highways are open for all the tension in your body to start to flow through, eventually ending up in those balloons. How does it feel to observe that stress float through your body or flow through your body into that one point that is outside of your body? The ability to feel and to notice how you feel on the inside is called interoception. It is also another sense. To observe and to imagine, to witness how you feel inside. And now with all of your stress sucked out of your body and into those balloons, observe that they begin to start to dissolve. And your balloons, they don't necessarily shrink, but they start to fade away, dissolving in space. And as they dissolve, they take that stress with them. And what you're left with is a calm, quiet body. And perhaps you imagine that where you had that stress, there is now space. Where you had that tension, there is now freedom and ease. Begin to wiggle your fingers, articulate your palms, maybe you circle your wrists. If you're seated, notice if you're hunching, maybe you sit up taller and circle your neck and shoulders. Imagine all that space that you created by the stress being sucked out. You get to move into those spaces, explore into them. Observe and discover all the small little nooks and crannies that you created inside your joints and your tissues, where all that stress used to be. Again, take one more inhale. And a slow, smooth, steady, open mouth exhale. Good. Open your eyes. Take in the space around you. And notice how you feel. All right. How'd that go for you? Another short little question and answer, comments, observation period.
Feel free to type in the chat as well. I'm keeping an eye out on it. Laura says very calming. Yeah, I definitely felt so very calming and mindful of, I really felt the balloon in my hand, center of my hand. I also like the word that she said, is it introspection?
Interoception. Cece, you like the balloon concept? Good. Awesome. Yeah, so there's proprioception, which is your ability to feel where your body is in space. So I know right now that my right hand is next to my right side and next to my right ear, and it's above my shoulder. I know that my right hand is behind me. That is called proprioception. Knowing how I feel, it's like feeling your pulse without without having to feel it, but feeling the pulse that is pulsating through you. That is part of interoception.
I experienced that. It was like I could feel my veins in the palm of my hand. Karen says, "Your precious Nom, thank you for being so generous to share your knowledge with all of us." It is
Oh,
almost
thank you.
3:00, so I want to be mindful. Thanks to everyone who has been so awesome and sharing their a little time, extra time than we usually do. This is definitely calming. And Dolly says, "That was awesome. Thank you. I even got my son to give it a whirl." Rebecca,
Yay!
he says, "Hi, Jeremiah." I need to leave to teach at 3, but thank you.
Yeah, actually, I didn't realize what time it was. I needed to leave and I have a meeting at 3:10 as well. But I figured this might be a good opportunity to actually come back and do the third one some other time.
Yes, that we would love that. This was so wonderful. And thank you, Now, for sharing your story and with us, and then giving us this moment to just be in the present and be together on Zoom and focus on each other. So, all right. Well, I'm
We
gonna
always do a final photo too.
yeah, final photo. For
All
those
right.
of you who would like to turn on your cameras and smile, I welcome it. Now's the time. Okay, I'm gonna do full screen. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Nam, for all this calm you brought to us.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you being here.
We'll be in touch and we'll see everyone next week, hopefully.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Mom.